Welcome back to NFT Talks podcast. I'm your host, Sean, and today we have Pindar Van Arman, who is an AI artist, massive artist in the NFT space. His work's been collected by some of the biggest collectors, but also on the flip side, he's a big collector himself. He's collected early Genesis pieces of X-Copy. He's been on SuperRare from the beginning. So you're going to hear a lot of gems, a lot of history about NFTs and how he got into the space. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, and let's help build this community. Welcome back to the NFT Talks podcast. I'm here with another great guest. He's been in crypto art since 2018. He's the AI artist that teaches computers how to paint. You can say that. He's been on BBC Worldwide, HBO News, TED Talks. Welcome, Pindar Van Arman. How are you?
Good. I'm great. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for coming on, man. Like, this talk, I feel is going to be very interesting because I'm going to learn a lot. I really there's a lot of things that you're doing around the NFT space, also with AI also. So I'm just interested to share your knowledge with the audience and everyone listening. So before we go into it in regards to what you do and whatnot, I think it's good to get a background of yourself in regards to what have you been doing before this NFT space popped up?
All right. Yeah. Well, I've been an artist since as long as I could remember. Just always wanted to paint in the sense, the old romantic sense of I just want to have a paintbrush, and everyone has their dreams when they're a kid. Mm-hmm. And mine was like, it wouldn't be great to make a living or like, my purpose on this planet would be paint paintings. I look back in hindsight and it was kind of overly romantic and silly because I don't know. I think all of us artists are a little bit of too much of dreamers at heart. And then, so always painted. And then I started my family and I was still painting, but I found out that I had less and less time to paint. And I'd prefer to spend time with my family. And so I came up with this scheme as I was build a machine or robots to help me paint. So I would, while I was hanging out with the kids and wife during the day, the robot would paint. And then at night when all the kids were asleep, I would go into the studio and finish up the paintings. And that was about 15 years ago. I started making robots to paint for me and just sort of like be my studio assistants. They started off super simple. They start off like, connecting dots and filling in, paint by numbers, just like humans start off really simple. And then, but every year I'd add a little AI and I'd make it a little smarter. Like in the beginning, I think I just did like simple things like, how to take a photo and turn into a couple colors was one of the first algorithms. And it uses this AI algorithm called K-means clustering. But then it got more and more complicated and more sophisticated. And then deep learning came along. And with deep learning, once deep learning was put into the robots, that things really took off. I would say, they are not the artists, and I get hate mail to this day. I get a lot of hate mail about, like, why are you trying to make an artist to take away jobs from all the other artists? They aren't artists, and they're not taking away anyone's jobs, but they are creative. And I really, I have this really deep understanding because I'm trying to teach these things to be as creative as I am. And I have a lot of demonstrations and a deep belief that while they're not artists, they are creative. In many ways, as creative as us.
I can imagine you get a lot of pushback, like you said. I can imagine why you're getting a lot of pushback because people are very reluctant to use machines for anything. So because you're using that side, and the one thing that we say humans have is creativity that machines haven't. You're kind of like teaching them how to.
At the last, and it gets hate me on it. It does. I get a lot of interviews and questions from the press, and they have this narrative they're pushing right now, and their narrative is that the machines are coming to take our jobs. And we as humans, we sort of define ourselves by what we do. So it's like it's a direct attack on our identities and our purpose. And journalists love that narrative right now. So I get that.
I see. When you were describing the way you thought you were gonna create these machines to help you paint. You kind of remind me of like the minions, like you go into your dungeon. You got all these little machines helping you to take over the world, so on. So I just found that funny. But
that's the real purpose. That's the real thing. It's just this. All this art is just a ruse. As I develop these, to be smart enough to march on the capitals. So,
like, okay, so you class yourself as an AI artist. I'm assuming you have a background in coding. I'm assuming clearly because, or did you teach?
I do now. No, I got into coding I was a graphic designer, and the .com era was happening around 2000. And this is before I got into robotics, but I got into a place doing graphic design, and I came to a realization that that a lot of the graphic design I was doing could be sped up by doing code, and it's just coding. I don't know. The luckiest thing that ever happened to me in my life is that coding exists, because back then, I was just an artist looking for a job, and graphic artist, and I was making a good living as a graphic artist, but not like what a coder did and does, and it was hard to raise a family until I discovered what code was, and a really long-winded response. I got into coding because it offered this way to get a house, raise my kids, and I was lucky enough that it was just easy for me.
Okay, so
like really lucky.
Yeah, it's lucky because it's not that easy to do. I mean, what you're doing, I can imagine that there's got to be it's going to be a technical side to it. And I mean, like you said, it did start off simple, you said, but you've kept up educating yourself, and you made these robots. Now they're able to paint these amazing paintings that are in the background. So I mean, tell me a bit about that journey. Like how long did it take to get to that? And I mean, you were trying to create more time for yourself, but wouldn't you put the time into doing this?
Well, that backfired. I was trying to create more time for myself, and instead I'm just up all hours of the night now. But actually, I made it a little too easy. I said coding came easy to me. It's easy coding. I don't know how to clarify this. While the coding was simple to me, these neural networks that run the deep learning is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And I'm quite open with the fact that I've failed miserably multiple times. When I saw deep learning, it was, so I did coding for about 10, 15 years before I discovered deep learning. Okay. And when I got into deep learning, repeated failure, really hard to conceptualize. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. It's got all this linear algebra, matrix mathematics, calculus. And the thing I'm open about is I failed 3 courses. I would take online courses. There's some famous ones like Andrew Ng's. I failed 3 courses before I finally got it. And even then when I got it, I was like, I barely understand it. And I can barely get it to work, but I am proud of the fact that, this was a year-long journey of, 3 failed courses and multiple books until finally I know the page on page 126 of Grokking Deep Learning. I was like, oh my goodness, I get this. And I remember it clicked, and I wrote a neural network to I forget what it was. It was a neural network to, I think it was, just to predict real estate data. But once I got the neural network to work and I looked at it, and I was like, oh my goodness, I get it. I finally wrote a neural network. A year, it took more than a year, and 3 failed courses. Okay. And then I started writing them, and they were still hard to write, but then I started writing them with a little regularity.
Yeah, one thing I was going to point out is at the time you committed and you've invested into doing this, and I feel that people may look at yourself and say, "Oh, you're using the computer to do the art. That's cheating. You're not putting as much work in, but the work is still there. I mean, you're learning the stuff behind it in order to make it work." Now, obviously, I'm really interested. How does it work? And on a very simple explanation, I know you put the code in, but explain to me, how does it work in regards to picking the right paints, to if it makes an error, does it make an error? Like them kind of things. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah. The thing that sort of separates, my AI and robots from most of the other, not all the others, but most of the others is I try and make it paint like me. So how does it work? Think about an artist. How does an artist work? And if you look at a classical abstract expressionist, an abstract expressionist might put a canvas in front of them, take a look at the canvas, dip their brush and paint and apply a little paint somewhere to that canvas. I don't know, depending on their style, it can go anywhere. But then after they apply that brush stroke, the artist steps back, takes a look at the canvas and does a little like analysis. What am I going to do next? And then puts another stroke, takes a step back from the canvas, based on how the two brush strokes are interacting, makes a third stroke over and over again. And this is what artist Paul Klee called a feedback loop. And feedback loop sounds like a computer science term, but it was actually, I learned about it from Paul Klee. So I was like, this is really interesting. And without going into the long story behind us, wouldn't it be cool if my robots did this? So there is a camera on my robots. And the robots are constantly taking a picture of the canvas, and they have 24 different AI algorithms running in their mind, in their brain, deciding what to do with the next brushstroke. But the big thing they do is they take a step back, take a picture of the canvas, and use a picture of what they're painting as input into what they should do next. And you mentioned, like, what's it do when it makes mistakes? One of the reasons, as you can look over my shoulder, one of the reasons I have the canvases painting at an angle is because I like the paint to drip, and I, just this cool drip effect. And you'll see it in a lot of my paintings because those drips are actually detected by the robot, and the robot tries to repair them. So, while, all AI and generative artists rely a little bit on random numbers, to like affect the outcome of their algorithms. Instead of relying on random numbers, this robot, for some, like, for a little bit of, I guess, serendipity, change things. That relies on the actual paint being applied too thick and then starting to drip. And then when it sees it's dripping, it goes and tries to replace it. But that often fails because, what are you going to do to replace dripping paint except add more paint? Yeah. And when you add more paint, it just drips more. And it's just like, it just chases this image. And I love the look. And it's a look that's developed over 15 years.
Okay, that's real interesting. So you almost set up the robot to fail to create a certain look, which you created in the background. Because I was going to think that, because one thing that comes to mind is, okay, then I know it's programming, it's you inputting the coding, but as artists may say, it's all about expression, how you feel at the time you see them. How do you get that side across, or is that your input? Would you say that the way you angle it, you're creating a style that way? How do you put the coding in to feel sad, and then they go, I'm gonna paint something sad or something excited? I mean, how does that work? Or it just isn't? It isn't, because initially you're just telling the robot something to do, aren't you? Is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's I give it a nudge in the right direction. And the reason I say that, I always clarify to people that I'm the artist, it's not the artist, is I'm the one deciding to make a painting that day. And I'm deciding whether it's going to be a portrait, whether it's going to be one of my Bitgans, whether it's going to be, you can see Rob Niss's portrait over the shoulder. And then I sort of give it a nudge, and I show it some training data. It's like, here's your inspirations for doing this. I'm like, to focus in on Rob Niss top, but right above the robot there is, I gave it a bunch of pictures that had Rob Niss posts for a couple of pictures, and I gave it a bunch of pictures. Then I also gave it a bunch of previous paintings that it had already done.
Okay.
And it studied paintings that it had already done, but I chose those, and then studied Rob Niss's face, and then it made another painting. Yeah. So, but I sort of set the mood for it. I sort of pick the emotional. There are a lot of gimmicks out there, and I avoid them. Like, I had like, 10 years ago, I remember I once did a portrait of the Pope, because I had this thing where I would just track social media trends. And if something was trending on social media, like as an emotional flashpoint, it would paint that, and the Pope had just died. So my robot picked a bunch of images of the Pope off the internet and started painting it. Did it really care? No, but it's, there's ways to give it human emotions.
Yeah. And it's kind of like you're giving it, you're creating, I would say, a sum, and the calculation will be the outcome. So you're giving all these different features. Would you say that's fair to say, like giving all these different features and saying, here's a mix. You don't know what's going to be the outcome. So there's the art, and the creation's made of what your input. So, okay, that makes sense. That's interesting. Okay, so let's talk about leading up. Okay, you've been doing this. Where does the NFTs come into it? And who told you about NFTs, first of all? Or did you just
interesting. No, I wanted to, it's interesting. One thing is, as well as being an AI artist, I'm also a fanboy and I collect AI art. I got a pretty good collection actually. And I was just collecting. I was collecting art, and I saw one artist that I wanted, and I got in touch with that artist and said, "Hey, I need to get some art." I usually, back when I began, it was like 15 years ago. I think I knew every other robot artist in the world because there were so few of us.
Yeah.
And I would just cold call other artists and just say, hey, what's up? How you doing? I made a bunch of good friends that way. I've known Patrick Tressette, for example, forever. He was one of the first I ever stumbled upon. I used to talk to Harold Cohen a lot.
Okay.
Harold Cohen made Aaron like in 1970.
Wow.
So anyway, and it brought me to SuperRare. And I was buying stuff on Super, and I was like, I don't know why not join. I was skeptical I would make it on, but Super was brand new at the time. It's not like it was today, where they have 10,000 applications a week.
Yeah.
I think when they got my application, I think they didn't have any applications or something because I got in and they made all these. I was like, look, I'm not even a digital artist. I make paintings. Is that okay? And they're like, yeah, sure. I think I was talking to Jonathan, and then they would say, and I was like, well, look, and these aren't one of ones because I'm taking a photo of my canvases. Should I destroy my canvases afterwards? And they just didn't care because they just needed artists back then.
Yeah.
And so luckily I was one of the early ones, one of the first on SuperRare. And but I was, that wasn't my first foray into cryptocurrency. And crypto is, back then they weren't called NFTs. I don't even know what they were called. They weren't even called crypto art. I forget what they were called. But before SuperRare, that was the first time into Ethereum. But before SuperRare, I had two Bitcoin projects. One was I verified 128 paintings on the BTC blockchain.
Okay.
And then about 3 years before that, maybe 4, I forget, but I had this project called Crowdpainter, where I would open up the robot to the internet, and anyone that can come to a website and paint with the robot. Like you just go to the website and you could paint, and the robot would just paint for you. It paint whatever you told it to. You could drag your finger across the screen or use a mouse or whatever.
Yeah.
And the idea I had was what if I hook this up to Bitcoin? So I made it so that you could use Bitcoin. And I made it so that people could buy strokes with Bitcoin, and the whole idea behind it was that you owned a percentage of the painting in proportion to how many strokes you made. 2 people used it,
Crazy.
and
that concept you just said, I just think that's crazy.
Yeah, I know, it's like fractionalization of the art, right?
Yeah.
It's funny is like in this world of firsts, everyone's always in the NFT world. They're always about firsts. I don't think any of these things are first that people are doing these days. So many people have done these small little projects. If someone did that right now, which I wouldn't be surprised if someone already hasn't.
I've interviewed a company called Async.art, and they've got that layering process.
Yeah.
So you can buy layers and then you can change them yourself as a collector, but almost the same. But I think that what you done there was, I think that's a great idea. I think that, but carry on.
No, wait, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was too early for its time. First of all, the art came out looking wacky. It was horrible. You crowdsource anything, it looks. You have no idea where to go. More jokers come in and start painting than an actual art. Yeah, but some of them came out great. There's a great Lincoln portrait, Abraham Lincoln, and it actually won my first international award. I got shortlisted at the Barbican. Wow. But only 2 people ever paid Bitcoin. It was an option. You could pay Bitcoin, you could just paint. And so I don't even know if I followed through on. I might have just returned their money or something. I forget. I considered it nonsense, but that was my first foray into crypto and art. And second one was I verified 128 paintings on the blockchain that I gave away at an event in New York.
So when did you decide to do NFTs with your work?
Very early SuperRare. I think my token's in the 100, like 100 something.
So it was initially on SuperRare then. So initially you got on SuperRare, and then because I can see obviously the people that when you go on your Twitter, you got some quite big collectors that follow you, some people within the space. So and obviously you're selling your work, you're doing quite well. We'll go into that. So when did it start picking up for you? You like that? Yeah, when did it start picking up for you and people?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That notice.
I love helping out other artists figuring out how to find it because I feel really fortunate. The curse of the world of the artist is There's so many good artists out there. And I would say maybe 1%, less than 1%, 0.1% is making any money, because it's such a fun thing to do. People are going to do it without making money. And of those 0.1% making any money, most of them, it's a hustle. I would say like only 1% of those are making money that more than they can make a living on. So very, very rare. And I'm lucky enough to be one of the ones that finally, after, a lifetime of working on art, finally it's paying off. And when did it start paying off? It started paying off about a year ago.
Okay. Quite fresh.
Yeah, my first SuperRare artwork, I mean, they were ridiculous. Like everyone was just trading. It was like I would never call them swap trades, but I mean, I remember I would buy Hackatow for $20, and then 2 days later, Hackatow would buy one of mine for $20.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on at the start.
Yeah,
everyone just supporting each other in it, supporting each other and saying, "Look, let me." Yeah, it was just about supporting each other.
Exactly. Yeah, and I just remembered those were the only buyers. There weren't any other. There was maybe I'd say Zach from SuperRare was the first non-artist to buy my work, but then he turned into an artist. I consider his Roses series like one of the best series in crypto. So yeah, and I remember after he bought mine, I was so flattered I went and bought a bunch of his. And if you look at Rose's collection, he's got some of the best collectors in the space. Like a lot of artists that don't collect own a Roses, because Roses spends so much of his Ethereum on other artists. I think I have this theory that of all the artists and collectors out there, he is probably the first buyer of more artists than any other person in the community. Okay. So anyway, yeah, that's how it used to be. It used to be a lot of us buying each other's work.
So this is when you were doing these one-off pieces. Now, tell me about, I'm really, because this goes back to what you initially said with the whole robots taking over the world. Now, when I've read about the BitGans and the concept behind that gave me that kind of feeling of the robots taking over the world, the way you described it, and you probably did that on purpose, to create that whole mystery, gamified side of it. But tell me about BitGans and obviously no GANs and Regans.
Sure. Good. Well, BitGans, BitGans, I'm gonna stay in character here, okay? But one day I just, my robot was working away, and I saw my what do you call it? My GPUs, my graphics cards the fans turned on, started spinning, and they were going crazy. And I was like, "What's going on?" So I went to go check out my computer, and just these images were pouring out of them. I had no idea what they were. These crazy little guys that were dancing and moving around. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, I found out they called themselves BitGans, and you can go see them at bitgans.com. But they're straight from my GPU. They're creating themselves. They're minting themselves, and I have no control over them. And we're just, I'm along with the rest of you all, finding out why they're coming, what they want, why they're here. The only thing I know about them for certain is there's only going to be 2,048. Each of them has a seed phrase from the BIPR 39 list. I guess the 2048 words that we're allowed to use to unlock our wallets, that convention. So that, since there's only 2048, I think we're at 300 or 400 of them, and more, about 64 to 100 get released every month. They often come in themes. It's probably the most fun project I've had, and as a crypto artist, it's the one that finally let me break out of this dilemma I had. And the dilemma I had was, I think that digital scarcity is valuable. I think it's real, but I can't. And this is just me speaking as an artist in my own personal experience. I can't understand additions. And the reason I say that is, a lot of artists have done additions, and I've done additions, so I'm not condemning anyone. But why would I say condemning anyone? I've done additions, so I'm not judging anyone for doing additions, because we all got to do what makes sense to our own art. Yeah. But it didn't make sense to my art. It just made, I have this machine that replicates things behind me, but it replicates things with a little different. It won't paint the same thing twice because of all the dripping paint. And I was like, that's sort of like what's indicative of my art. It doesn't matter that I have this AI making all this art. There's never a repeat. And so I could never justify making an addition for myself. After I realized that, I felt guilty, and I actually spent quite a lot of money rebuying all my old editions and destroying them. So luckily I only made like 3 or 4 of them. And it costs a lot of money to buy them all back, except for one. I left one out there, and I burned the rest. And so like now you can't find a Van Arman edition. And so the BitGans helped me out because it's, you know, the answer was sitting there all along is every single one can be different. You know, that's like, and I'll challenge any artist that's doing editions. You know, I challenge you, is like, you know, it's so, the technology is there and the digital, it's possible for you to make every single one. You make a 10 off edition, but make all 10 a little different. You know, take the time to make them a little different, to add that value. And that's the challenge I would have, like, I think in the crypto art world, is it's possible to be an artist and make all one of ones.
Let's stay character. I want to ask you a question. What we're saying in character to the BitGans. Now,
what do you mean in character? I don't understand.
In regards to, obviously, where these things came from, nobody knows.
Yeah.
The collecting, what kind of help are you looking for? Because obviously I see the journal. There, you'll be writing down your notes, and you're trying to discover this. So you need certain kind of individual to come out and look and help you explore what these actually are. So tell me a bit about the journal.
Yeah,
what you discovered.
Yeah, like every couple of days, we get a new puzzle, and the BitGans, they won't tell us what they want or why they're here, but they're just like puzzle after puzzle after puzzle. And I have to say, my collectors are super wicked smart, because some of these puzzles, I'm like, no way anyone's gonna understand this one. And like, you know, 5 minutes later, an answer pops up. Like after I think there's one that I thought would never. This is actually one of the best ones. Is during the last big drop, all the BitGans had they have traits, you know, rarity traits. And this was the first time people realized that one of the rarity traits, everyone thought it was random words, but someone picked up on the fact that these random words that were associated with every single BitGan was a seed phrase, a word from the list of 2048 words that you could do to you know, to a pneumatic device to unlock your wallets. And then they found a pattern inside the BitGans with numbers. And they were able to, it took only 3 hours for an individual named Noohp, Noop, I think he's pronounced, the name is pronounced. Took him 3 hours to decode the fact, or the whole community figured out together that it was a seed phrase. And it took Noop 3 hours to unravel what 24 of the, I think it was a 64 BitGan drop, what 24 of them were the relevant seed phrases, because they all had seed phrases, and then the order of the seed phrases. And this is something that, you know, I think one person was trying to brute force. Once he found all the seed phrases, he's trying to brute force, and it would have taken, you know, 10,000 years or something, even though he knew the seed phrases. So anyway, so the BitGans, and after that, Noop went and opened the wallet, and he found in the wallet, he found the perpetrator, this BitGan called Qubit. And the QBitGan had cracked the code, and he was helping all the BitGans escape. Sort of like one of, I'm not sure if he's evil or not, or it is evil or not, but it was definitely trying to get the BitGans to escape and go into different wallets and get out into the material physical world. So they're coming out of my GPUs, and they're just trying to find themselves into the physical world. And that's one example of it, where they had this one, the QBitGan, who I guess had quantum technology, figured out a way to cracking codes, and it was only with Noop's help where we were able to capture him. And then another thing you'll see happening, and this is going to be big because I got another drop coming soon, is is some of the collectors discovered, you know, there's these flaming BitGans, and some collectors discovered that if you burn a flaming BitGan with another BitGan, it'll actually take over my painting robot, and you'll see them. They're painting. Those are forged BitGans back there. They come from 2 burned BitGans, as long as one of them which has a rarity trait of flaming. So the whole community is discovering these weird things about these BitGans and why they're here, what they're doing. And I think, you know, we're beginning to think that their ultimate purpose is to get into the physical world. You know, they started in the GPU, the digital world. They're trying to get in the physical world. We're not sure why. It's not completely clear what they're trying to tell us. But, you know, every week we learn more, and every drop, we get more clues, and I hope by 2048, we will finally know why they started appearing.
Well, definitely, everyone definitely wants to be involved, and there is high demand because the floor price is 32 ETH. So
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're very generous. Soon I'll say this, and people think I'm crazy for this. Is when I release them at 0.1 ETH, and I do everything I can. So like, and Yeah, I released them at point 0.1 ETH, and or I'm sorry, they released themselves at point 0.1 ETH,
Yeah.
and despite this, and a commitment that every drop's going to be affordable, you know, they're not going to commit to a number because who knows what the value of ETH is in a year. It looks like a 2-year project, but it's always going to be like, you know, floor prices, entry level prices, and despite that, the floor is insane.
Yeah.
And also every time they, you know, and counterintuitively, every time they release themselves at 0.1 ETH, the floor gets swept. And like, you're like, hey, just a bunch just got released at 0.1 ETH. Why are you buying them at, you know, 6, 7, 8 ETH? But I think it's because, oh yeah.
I was going to say, ultimately, you created this problem because you have it was your computer that done it. So we have to put it through at somebody. And
well, they're appearing to me for a reason. I'm not sure, but
so,
yes, I'm their chosen
but
one.
then, so whoever solves this, who gets to the end and helps you solve this, is there a reward?
Yeah, lots of rewards. Like I was saying, when Noop solved the seed phrase one,
Yeah.
the Qubit GAN gave himself over, and that's an ultra rare, as well as another bit GAN and a whole ETH. So there's rewards like that. There's riddles that like unlock them. But this is something I've been committing to for a while. They're revealing a little bit about the algorithm to me that created them. And at 1024, when the project reaches the halfway point, it's all going to be open source. They're going to share everything, all the art that created these things, the algorithm that makes them. And so there's going to be, you know, ultimate reward to the community is at halfway through the project, everything's going to be revealed. Anyone's going to be able to, you know, the BitGANs are going to let themselves be manifested on any computer by anyone. And it's something I'm looking forward to, because once the BitGANs open themselves up like that, I have no idea what's going to happen. What are they going to reveal? What form are they going to reveal to people in the community at that point? So,
but
yeah,
we will definitely find out.
It'd be dangerous, but you know, so but it's too much of a burden for me to handle alone. So,
I think that's the best description of a project that I've had on so far. It was. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, no problem. You know, the big thing is there was a big riddle. I'll finish this with this. There was a riddle that just appeared the other day, and the answer to the riddle was "Beware the Ides of November." The BitGANs are putting messages through a portal in crypto voxels. You can check out bitgans.com.
I did see that. So they opened the portal. Was that what
they opened a portal? Yeah, and it looks like a Minecraft portal, which is interesting. And and they send messages through that portal, and one of them was "Beware the Ides of November." And you know what's interesting is I do have that drop on Brain Drops on November 15th, which is going to be a big drop. I'm dropping 1,024 pieces of art, but the Ides of November is November 13th. So I'm not sure if they're connected. It's kind of interesting.
Well, so this is why everyone's going to stay vigilant and be a part of it. And
yeah, because not even I know what's going to happen. Yeah, the Brain Drops is again Justin Trimble and Gene Kogan and Claire Silver. You know, the Gene and Claire are going to be the other two artists. They're a little irritated with me because, you know, they're like, what are you dropping? I said, I don't know. It hasn't revealed itself to me yet. And we got a week to go. I don't know when we're gonna broadcast. So,
all right, cool. So tell me, Pindar, what other projects are out there that you're interested in, whether they're PFP or generative, like Fidenza, like things like that, or an artist that you know of, because you've been in there from quite early. So is there one out there you think, look, I love their work, I collect all their work, or PFP project that you're a part of and you just committed? Like, it could be Cryptods, like everyone seems to be.
You know, like I have so many favorites, and I'm a big collector. And so I'm just fortunate enough to have been collecting from the early days, so I have a good collection. So best is if I just tell you stuff I've done recently, and that way, you know, since I have so many favorites. So recently, the big things that stick out to me recently are Gene Kogan's work, because he's actually going to be doing a drop on Brain Drops. And Gene Kogan is like, you know, when you look at crypto artists and you look at AI artists, he is possibly one of the most popular, at least, you know, from my understanding of things, AI artists in the AI art world. Just always shares his code. You know, he's the first artist that I am aware of to ever do GANs as art. You know, and like, you know, a lot of other people get credit for being the the pioneers, but he doesn't toot his own horn. So he is doing a big AI art drop on Brain Drops November 15th. and I've seen some sneak peeks at it, and I'm such a big fan of him as an AI artist, and always have been, just for his reputation and the work he's done in the AI art world and what he's done for other people. That's probably the biggest drop, along with Claire Silver is going to be in that drop as well. So
Okay.
those are two things I'm really looking forward to. November 15th, Brain Drops, and also the continuation of the Brain Drops project. It's going to be a platform for AI art drops. So that's always interesting.
All right. So what about is there any programmable art that you like, that you're out there, whether they're PFP or things like Fidenza?
I'll tell you a PFP that I think is going to be super amazing, and a lot of work's going into it. And it's Stella Bell's Crypto Stellas.
Okay.
I don't know if she's going to make 777 of them. She put so much work into each PFP that I don't know how she's going to do 777 of them, but she's already done 60, 50 or 60. They're gorgeous. She releases them like I do with the Bidgan, or like the Bidgans do with themselves, for very affordable price. And the floor shoots up. I think the floor might be at 5 ETH or something, and she's giving them out for 0.1 ETH or 0.08 ETH. I'm not sure, but that's Crypto Stellas are actually amazing. A lot of work goes into it, and they're funny. I don't know how she comes up with so many funny pieces. Oh yeah, another good one is Dunn. Okay, Dunn in her Hout series. She does this series of like just memories, and it's the best use of language I've seen in the crypto art space. I would suggest that one. An artist I work with a lot is Kitty Life Art, and she does these really subtle portraits of just like really straightforward, simple portraits that I'm a big fan of. Okay, you know what I just did? I went back and went chronologically of recent purchases. So that's probably where I'll stop there.
All right, so then there guys to check out, definitely, especially from your recommendation, because you've been collecting for a while. Back onto your project, I've seen you, obviously you made an announcement that you do, for your collectors, they get 100% equity for royalties. Talk to me about that, and why have you done that for your collectors?
I do that for the same reason the Bitgans release themselves at 0.1 ETH, is because, it's like, I found that as a collector, I've had some pretty crazy success with, flipping NFTs, and I just realized how fun that is. And as an owner of the art, just how rewarding it is. It's like, well, I found this artist before this artist was selling for a lot, and here I am selling, and like selling for big profits. And it just makes it so fun for me that I just want to give all my collectors that much fun. So, I know, for example, that with the Bitgans, they know that they could raise their price, but then if they raise their price to be the market, no one would have fun flipping them. And I think a big part of the fun of having a Bitgan is, and most people don't flip them. That's why the floor is so insane. But, a big fun of it is you own it, and you made this like really good, this savvy purchase of art that's going to pay off. So I just want to give people that opportunity. And so with Bitgans, I do that with the low release prices, even though, they sell out in seconds. But on my SuperRare work, I've gone as well to make, SuperRare gives me 10% of all royalties. And they also do this thing now. They do this thing now where they split the 3% royalties that they used to get with all the previous collectors. And since they have that mechanism, there's a place I can go look to see how the money was split, and then I can just imitate whatever SuperRare. The SuperRare sends, half of that 3% to two different collectors. I will split my 10% up evenly and do a third to myself, a third to each of those two collectors. And I can only do it because SuperRare does the accounting and the tracking of who to send these things and which wallets to send it to. But I'm matching that. And it's just so, I actually have a lot of regret. I have some pieces that I sold that I don't regret because I sold them financially, because, they're great flips, but I regret that I'm not part of the piece's story anymore. And we're talking some big ones. We're talking Xcopy's Genesis piece. We're talking Hackatow's early works. We're talking, and every time I sell these big pieces, it's for a record. And I've even talked to the artist, talked to Xcopy, and I'll be like, hey, do you mind, should we sell it? And all these times, these artists, just like my recent sale from Prometheus to Komozo, it's good for us artists. And so like in each of the times I've sold X copies, every single time it's been a record breaker. At the time it was the highest price of it was the first 100 ETH sale of an X copy. It was one of mine that I sold. Wow. And also before that, it was the first one that was over $1,000 USD. And so these things are like landmarks and really great for the artists that I'm selling, but they left me a little empty in that I let go of a piece I really loved. Yeah. And so I always thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if I was still part of the story? Luckily, SuperRare has implemented that. For example, that recent 3.9 million 13,000 ETH Komozo sale. Yeah, I got a cut of that because I was the original owner. SuperRare gave me wow. I don't know how much SuperRare gave me. What did they give me? 1%. Yeah, SuperRare might have given me 1%
just being part of it, though, isn't it? I mean, that's crazy in itself. Like you're still a part of it because you're still. And will that you reckon?
Yes, I am. I am still a part of it, but and so that's why I'm doing that for my collectors. I'm making them an equal part of it. So it's like we're partners. If you buy into my art, we're forever partners on that piece. And rumors are that SuperRare has already done the work to do 3%. Rumors are they're interested. They've responded to my idea. They definitely say they like my idea of sharing royalties. Yeah. So maybe we'll see something coming out of SuperRare where artists can do that automatically on chain in the future.
Who's been your biggest collector so far, name wise, whether it's in the space or in the real world and celebrities wise, or?
The biggest collector would be Roses. Coldie's another big collector. One of my favorite collectors is Colburn.
Okay.
Gosh, so many. They're all celebrities. The list is, I'm gonna do the same thing so I don't forget a collector because I know I'm just gonna list the last three.
Okay. Be safe.
What's that?
So be safe. You're not going to miss anyone out. Just say three of them. That's it. Just last three. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then and then the big recent one was Komozo de Medici that he bought two of my works, one of them for 80 ETH, and that was pretty amazing. I was actually talking to a gallerist today, and the gallerist, I was talking to them about NFTs, and I could sort of it's funny. It's like this is why I love the crypto art world. It's like it doesn't matter. All that matters is the relationships you build with your collectors and the other artists and I remember they're talking to me about all the opportunities in the city, and they're talking and he was telling me about another gallery, and he's like, but this gallery does blue chip artists only. And I was like, I'm curious. I hear the word blue chip artist. What is a blue chip artist? And it's like, oh, you got a while to go before then. I was like, okay, what's a blue chip artist? And he told me 100,000 and more, 100,000 USD and more is a blue chip artist. I was surprised because of the amount of NFT artists that are easily over 100,000.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, but I kept myself from saying it. I was like, my last one sold for 350,000. Maybe that gallery would be interested, but they're not. It's like we're all. It's interesting. Galleries are interested in us, but they're not because we found a way to go around them, and that doesn't work for them.
And it cuts them out.
Yeah, it cuts them out.
Yeah.
And so it's a funny first world problem in that I've always wanted to be in a gallery, and I've tried so hard over the years to get into one, and I got into a couple of them, but in the end, I just realized SuperRare is the place to be. And I'm just like, I don't think I would give up the freedom I have at SuperRare at this point.
Yeah, I feel that the future may be for galleries is to not deal with the artists, but to deal with the NFT marketplaces. So they will display the arts. You still use NFT marketplaces to buy the art or the piece of work, and they get a percentage, a cut that way through the marketplace rather than through the artists. Does that make sense? So it still can be seen, because I still feel that people still want to go out and see these pieces of art, and you've got these wonderful displays that you can see them on, and you can put your headphones on and really be a part of the art. But yeah, I think that's the best way. Otherwise, I don't see how it's going to work between the artists and the galleries. Don't know if
Yeah, no, I've had so many good experience with gallerists, but the problem is it's not when I don't, nothing against them, because they're all art lovers, right?
yeah,
But they're just not moving at the speed of NFTs, meaning like, I'm still like, I did a show. I'm not going to mention where the show was, just I don't want to put the gallery on the spot, but
yeah,
it's been 6 months since they paid me, and it's not their fault. They're just going through this like bookkeeping. They're going through international tax law. They're going
yeah.
through, they got to send the money for something that's art overseas. And it's just taken 6 months. And I'm like, done with that. And they're very good-hearted people, and they're trying their best, but still, like, who wants to wait 6 months to get paid for something, especially when you put so much money up front to do it yourself in the beginning. So
The
yeah,
process
this is
of
the
that
ugly side of art, is the money side, right? I can't wait to a post-scarcity economy, which maybe the metaverse will be, and everyone just makes art, and it doesn't matter. All that matters is what looks cool.
Well, I think we got a long way to get there, but it's a target, isn't there? It's a target to work towards that. It's something, and everyone's got a part to play in regards to getting there. Talk to me about the metaverse then. Actually, before I go to that, is come on, is it Kazum? But I can't even say his name properly. The collector.
Okay, but I've only texted, so I'm only read up on the name.
Is it Snoop Dogg? Because the rumor is that he came out that it was him, is it?
No, I did see that.
I thought because it's connected to your work, potentially you may know if and we can get that exclusive.
You'd have to ask Kazoma yourself. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, why would Snoop Dogg come out as Kazoma if it wasn't? So
yeah,
but Snoop Dogg does spend a lot of time going into NFT culture, and this person knows everything about it that there is to know. So,
all right, cool. So yeah, moving back to the original question I was going to ask you, the metaverse. Where, like, what do you think that's how? I mean, obviously Facebook's announcement with Meta. Obviously, where do you see things in the future?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, like I get into the metaverse, but I don't like wearing 3D. I have lots. I always get the latest virtual reality goggles, but I don't like them because it just like takes me out of the space, and I've kids running around, so I'm waiting for. I love crypto voxels. I love going into and just looking into it on my monitor, as long as I don't have the VR glasses on.
Yeah,
but I see it as like, I just see digital scarcity as the next wave of things. That's a good question. I don't know why Facebook is getting into it. Talking about making something super cool uncool. But I don't know why they're getting into it. This is a good question. I don't know why I'm in it. I love it. I love crypto voxels. I love Somnium Space. I love Decentraland Sandbox. But I don't know why I love it so much. I just think maybe it's this opportunity to have a life less ordinary. It's like, the Ready Player One movie. You get to go in there, and your digital assets are this whole new class of assets that you could flex. I think, like, I have no idea where it's going. I think that the community is like defining it as we go. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a brave, new, beautiful world. The cool thing is that there's so much design available, and that anyone can be an architect. Anyone can be a fashion designer. You're not limited by having to have, cloth and material and models or whatever you choose to make. You're not limited because you can just get all the tools you want and just do it. So it's like,
at the same level, really, to a certain extent. I mean, obviously, there's people who've been doing it for a while, but you can kind of like learn how to do these things and become a builder. And I thought that if you look at the younger kids, like you said you got a child too. Kids already in like Minecraft, they're already building, they're already doing these things. So they're just going to be, I feel that they're just going to be very involved with what's going on. They're going to be the true creators of what's going to happen in the coming future. That's what I believe. All right. So one thing I like to kind of end the podcast on is how I want you to describe how you think the world's going to be in, say, the next 10 years. I mean, in your life, I mean, waking up, and we're talking about including NFTs to the kind of work in AI and stuff like that. How does it look? You wake up in the morning, what do you see? What's going on? What are you doing?
So it's 2021 and 2031. What's going to happen? I think that I'm looking forward to maybe 2-day work weeks.
Okay.
You know, for me, I'm an artist, so it's like I'll keep on doing a 7-day work week. But for all of us, most of us, my children, a 2-day work week, where we do 2 days only for the man, and then the rest, it's like, flipped it, and 5 days to pursue family, friends, art, sports, whatever it is your passion is, and I think this is going to be possible because I think AI is going to really take over the redundant jobs. And I think there's going to be a little, like in 5 to 6 years, there's going to be a little friction where people are like, why are you taking my jobs? And then like at 8 or 9 years, you're going to be like, oh, I never wanted that job anyway, so I'm cool. We're good.
How do people survive in it? Because people are working 5 days a week at the moment or some people working longer to try and survive in this world. So how do people make money, like capitalism and all that stuff? Like,
it makes no sense to me. It's like, it's like almost we're competing with ourselves because, even if you go back 100 years, how much more efficient are we as farmers than 100 years ago? Absurdly more efficient. Like two people can like farm square miles, like used to be that, you could only do an acre. The acre has something to do with the definition of how much a person with a plow can do in one day, right? Yeah. But now, like one person with the efficiency of farming can do like an entire Rhode Island, and with all the machines they have, and yet, even though we are so much more efficient than we were in the past, we still have a scarce city economy where people are competing for the nicest houses in the most expensive areas. I think we're going to get over that. I think there's enough food and energy, which is ultimately the only thing really needed. There's enough food and energy for all of us to start working 20% to 30% of the time. For some reason in America, we have a puritanical structure of for some reason, and I don't know why. We think that if you're not breaking your back working, you're a leech on society. I think there's going to be an enlightenment moment in about 5 or 6 years where we're like, no, I'm not, I can contribute to society if I only work 1 or 2 days a week, and I think that's the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle is, and I don't know about other countries, but I know it here. The biggest hurdle is like ourselves realizing is like 40-hour work weeks should be a thing of the past. We should this is 10 years. I'm talking about 2-day work weeks. I'm 50 years. I'm talking about no day work weeks, like Star Trek. If you want to go explore the universe, go explore the universe. If you want to do nothing, go do nothing. If you want to play video games in your basement, I don't care. Do it.
I agree with you. I agree with you to a certain extent, but I don't think it's a systematic thing in regards to why people are tied up into why you talked about. I think it's about ownership. Personally, people don't own anything. So then they're getting the money and they're spending, but they don't own anything, so they can't gain anything from because you don't have nothing to own. They can't get but I think this is going to open up doors for a lot of people. Like you mentioned, people want to play games, but with NFTs, you may be able to do this play to earn thing. If you enjoy doing that, you're going to make a living playing games, and it's going to be much more easier. That's what I like, and that's why I'm excited about NFTs. It's going to open up a lot of doors for people that are not skilled, because people feel that if you're not skilled in something that pays a high wage, then you're not going to survive, like a starving artist, as they call it. But artists at the moment are doing very well in the NFT space. So things are changing. It's positive, and I hope it gets to where you're talking about, because I'd love to work only 1 day a week. so I'm with you on your vision. I'm with you on that. But ultimately, Pindar, it's been great chatting to you. I'm happy you came on and shared your knowledge. I was really interested to see where this was going to go today, but it's been fun.
I can't believe the time's already up. It's been great talking with you. Very easy. It's been fun.
All right. So where can anybody contact yourself and reach out to you if they want to get in contact?
My 2 big sites are, Twitter, Van Arman, VANARMAN. And then I have bitgans.com, where you can learn about the Bitgans and see what they're up to, and also cloudpainter.com. And I check DMs on Twitter a lot, so just DM me there if you want to get in touch. So there's a Discord. You'll find that in the Twitter. Yeah, I guess the Twitter Van Arman's got the root of how to get in touch with me and how to find all my sites.
Perfect. All right, then. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you everyone for listening and watching. Everyone stay listening, stay blessed.